Hey folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and for the last couple of years, I've been publishing a DGA Awards article on my official website. And admittedly, not all of you check my official website. So this year I wanted to do one in video form along with the written one that I usually do. Now, this isn't going to be anything formal or fantastic or anything like that. In fact, I do have a few disclaimers that I want to get out of the way. Number one, I don't own a whole crap ton of games. I am not as big as some other game reviewers out there. So the way I do my DGA awards, I only take the games that are currently in my collection, and I look at them and figure out which ones I like the best, at that point in time, regardless of publication date. Because I only get like 25 to 50 games sent to me per year. Tabletop games, mind you, not video games. But tabletop games, I get like 25 to 50 sent to me every year. And if I were to do it by publication date, it'd be a very small list to go through. And I'm just not big enough yet to be able to sort it out by year. So this is a list of my favorite games at the present time, regardless of release date. Now, when I say top 10, I'm not saying best. I can't say best. I hate articles and I hate videos that are the best of all time or the best of this year. You can't make the claim that these games are the best if you haven't played everything within that time frame. You can't do it. It's misleading. I mean, granted, there are obvious SEO benefits for doing so, but I just find that title best of misleading because I can guarantee you people that say best of haven't played everything. So I'm going to say top 10, and with a disclaimer behind that, of the games that I own. And that's it. So keep that in the back of your mind as I go through this list. Okay, so this is it, my top 10 for 2015. Number 10, Trambahn. This is a game that I just got this year, and I have to say it is fantastic. It is Lost Cities on steroids. I love the game Lost Cities. There's a board game and a card game under that title, but Trambahn just takes it to a whole new level. It's a two-player card game, and it's just, there's so much to think about with that game. It has the same mechanics as Lost Cities in that you're putting numbers in a row in ascending order, but at the same time, these cards do like 3 different things at once, so you're constantly juggling what's in your hand, trying to figure out, okay, this card is going to be used for this, but at the same time, I don't want to use my card for this if I'm going to use it for that, and then my opponent is going after this color, so maybe I'm going to use this card for something. There's just so much to think about when it comes to Trambahn, and I'm really, really liking that game. Definitely recommend that one if you need a two-player game. Number 9, Star Trek Catan. And I could have put the Settlers of Catan here, but I have a problem with Settlers of Catan. While Settlers of Catan has all of the expansions behind it, I don't like the quality of Settlers of Catan. The harbor tiles warped in my copy, and I was very displeased. And the hex tiles wouldn't stay in that grid, and it would fall under the harbor tiles on the outside. And that turned me off. The Star Trek Catan, I mean, I love Star Trek, so there's that. But I also like the look and the feel of the Star Trek Catan game. And they have characters with special abilities that you can use. So it plays exactly like Settlers of Catan, but there's a few extra things that Star Trek Catan does that standard Catan does not. So I like Star Trek Catan. It's number 9. Number 8, Takenoko, or Takenoko. Pandas. Need I say more? Pandas. It's an excellent, it's sort of like a resource management game, but there's also tile laying involved. I mean, you've got different goals that you're going after, like you can have the panda eat bamboo, whereas if you are going after a gardener goal, you're trying to get the bamboo to grow and get the panda out of there, so you can get the bamboo to grow on certain tiles, trying to arrange tiles of different colors in a specific pattern. There's just a lot of different ways to score points in that game, and it's a race to see, who can do it the most effectively based on the cards they have. It's just an excellent game all around. Great quality, great family game. So 8, Takenoko. Number 7 is Pandemic. Pandemic is a cooperative game, and it's fantastic as cooperative games go. I've played a few cooperative games. Flashpoint, Fire Rescue, that's cooperative. There's a few others that I'm missing, but did I say there's a Flashpoint Fire Rescue? I'm drawing a blank. I really am. But I mean, there's other cooperative games out there, but Pandemic is fantastic. You can customize the difficulty any way you want to. There are a number of expansions out there that make the game even more challenging. But basically, if you're not familiar with Pandemic, your goal is to rescue the world from 4 different viruses before the virus basically consumes everything. And I really like the game. It's a great theme. It really encourages players to work together. Okay, you go here and deal with this virus by cleaning up. And each character, by the way, has special abilities. So this medic, I don't remember them off the top of my head, but there's a medic person, I think, that can clean up 3 virus tokens on one city, and as opposed to one. One can act as a transporter. It's been a while since I've played, but it's a fantastic game. If you want a cooperative game, check out Pandemic. Number 6 is Ticket to Ride. Cannot recommend this game enough. Family friendly across the board. Easy to play on top of it. If you're not sure about which one to get, because there are a few of them out there, if you're a casual gamer family, start with USA. USA is the easiest one out of them. And then if you're more experienced, go for Europe. Europe introduces a few more mechanics that USA doesn't have. And there are some more expansions beyond that point. Like there's the USA 1910 expansion and Europa 1912 or something like that. The USA 1910 game introduces bigger cards, among other things. Makes the game a whole lot better, I think. But it's not necessary to enjoy your experience. So if you're looking for a nice family game and you're just getting into gaming, Ticket to Ride, number 6. So go check that one out too. Number 5, Lords of Waterdeep. I think this is on my list every year, to tell you the truth. But for a good reason. It's just a lot of fun to play. I don't know if I would call this a casual game. It's a worker placement game, and there's a lot going on. You've got so many meeples that you can put in various locations. You'll get resources, but those resources are not gold or silver or anything like that. It's, you're collecting people, like fighters and clerics, and then you assign these people to quests, and you can complete quests and gain victory points that way. But there's also other, I think they're called intrigue. It's been a while since I've played. I play a lot of games, so I can't get to these all the time. But I think there's like intrigue cards or some sort of special card deck that you can draw from that has special abilities. And my favorite part of the game, buying buildings. I love that. You can buy buildings, call them your own, and then other people can land on them. You can use them too, but other people can land on them, and you'll get part of what they get on top of that. So, if they land on a building that you own and they get 2 clerics, you might get 1 for them using the building. So in essence, they're paying you, but not really paying you. But I like that overall theme. Buying buildings and then other people can use them. I don't know what it is. I like that. So Lords of Waterdeep was my number 5. Number 4, Among the Stars. I love this game. I love the idea of building your very own space station. It reminds me of Alhambra in some ways, but in Among the Stars, I like the theme better, and it does more for me. And the different parts of the station that you're laying down, they chain together in various ways. So it's a constant struggle to try and put them down in just the right order, the right pattern, and making sure that the buildings, or I don't want to say buildings, but the parts of the station get the power they need to function. It's just, there's a lot of things going on with Among the Stars, and I really, really, really enjoy that one. Alien Frontiers was my number 3. Again, it's a sci-fi theme. You could probably see a running theme here. I love sci-fi. But Alien Frontiers, I mean, the components are beautiful. It's another one of those worker placement games. You're putting, your main goal is to get victory points by putting your tokens on this planet. But in order to do that, you have to get resources. I think there's like solar and ore. And you can also get cards that give you special abilities, and there's some other things that I'm getting. But it's also, these workers that you get to put onto these various locations are dice, and you actually have to roll them and based on what comes up, that's what may drive you to put this die here or this die here, because some spaces can only be activated if certain dice go on them. Like, in order to get ore, I believe, you have to either equal or exceed the previous die value. So if there's a 3 already there, then you can only put a 3 or higher on those ore spaces to collect that ore. Or if you put it on the solar space, if you like put a 1 or 2 there, you only get 1. If you put like a 3 or 4 there, I don't remember exactly how it works, but the die rolling and the values that come up will ultimately determine where you're going to put these dice. And it's an excellent worker placement game. The theme is great, and just the quality of the components are wonderful too. So Alien Frontiers was my number 3. Number 2, Splendor. Love this game. I can't say enough about it. Good things. Good things. First of all, the quality of the components are top notch. The chips or the gems, they're circular gem pieces, and they're very colorful. They're very heavily weighted. So I mean, that surprised me. And in Splendor, for those of you who aren't familiar with that, it's sort of like it's a set collecting game, sort of, where you're collecting gems of a color. There's different colored gems, and you're collecting different gems, and then you're using these gems to buy cards on the table. Now, these cards that you collect sometimes have victory points on them, but they also serve to give you passive assets or passive gems that you can use toward your future purchases. So if you collect a card with a white gem on it, you could use that one white gem and then the physical gems that you can pick up. So if you have 2 physical white gems and then 1 from a card, that's 3 white gems that you have, and you can use those 3 gems to purchase other cards on the table. You keep the cards that you have. You don't spend those. You only spend the chips. So as you're collecting all these cards, you're able to make bigger and bigger purchases. And there's different tiers. There's 3 tiers of cards. There's 3 rows. And the top row is like the hardest to get. And while you're doing this, you're also attracting like patrons or whatever they're called from the sidelines. If you get so many cards of a particular gem type or color, that'll attract those people to you, and you'll get extra victory points. Very simple game to play, but you're going to be scratching your head each turn going, well, what color should I go after based on what's on the board? What is my opponent going after? Should I reserve this card and also collect a wild gold token? The gold is sort of like a wild token. It can be used for any color. So there's different strategies. Very simple to play, but heavy on strategy. Splendor, number 2. Finally, number 1, Star Wars X-Wing, the miniatures game. For those of you familiar with my YouTube channel, this game and I think Vinny and I have spent more time playing this game than any other game on my YouTube channel. It's just fantastic. I'm a big Star Wars fan. Can't wait for the movie, by the way. I did not buy my tickets yet. I'm not that crazy. But I'm going to assume the theaters are going to just basically increase the number of show times available because of all the people that are reserving them now. So I'm not going to worry too much. But anyway, Star Wars X-Wing. The reason I picked this over like Star Trek Attack Wing and some other miniatures out there, I mean, it just captures the theme so well. Like, I grew up with Star Wars X-Wing on the PC, TIE Fighter, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, X-Wing Alliance, and I don't know if there's other ones out there, but there were space simulators. And I really got into the ships, the X-Wings, the Y-Wings, the A-Wings, the B-Wings, the TIE Fighters, TIE Interceptors, TIE Bombers, TIE Defenders, TIE Phantom, TIE Assault Gunboat. I don't think the Assault Gunboat's actually in Star Wars X-Wing, but I got really heavy into the Star Wars universe, especially the ships. The ships more so than the actual characters. I was a big-time fan. I even played on the MSN Gaming Zone, Star Wars X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. There's an MSN Gaming Zone. People got together, flew together in tournaments, and they calculated kill-death ratios, and it was a lot of fun. But Star Wars X-Wing miniatures, the models are fantastic. It's a very pricey game, though. If you're not into miniatures and you're on a tight budget, this is a game that is not for you. But it captures everything in terms of, what Star Wars is all about. X-Wings feel like X-Wings, Y-Wings feel like Y-Wings. The Y-Wings have more hit points, but they're slower, less maneuverable. TIE Fighters, TIE Interceptors, they don't have shields. That's represented in this game, so that's kind of awesome. I don't know. This is the only tabletop X-Wing game that I've ever played. I don't think there are many out there. But this is one of the few board games that I've played that really, really capture the theme from a TV show or a movie. So yeah, that was my number 1, Star Wars X-Wing. Alright, so now that I've given you my top 10, I'd like to briefly go through my honorable mentions. And it's tough because I want to name a lot more games than I have, but I have like, I don't know, 200 to 300 games in my collection at this point, and it's so tough because each game has some type of unique element to it that usually makes it stand apart from the rest. Now, there are some games that are just carbon copies of previous games, but there are a lot of games in my collection that stand out for a specific reason, and it's hard not to give them credit. But I'm just going to go through this list real quickly. They're in no particular order. I just sort of jotted them down. Jaipur is an excellent 2-player game. Lots of camels. I'm going to try and go through this briefly just because there's a lot here. Lanterns, the Harvest Festival. Very colorful game. It's a tile-laying game. If you like Carcassonne, then you'll like this one. Lost Cities, the card game. Again, sort of like Trambahn. If you're a casual gamer, I would recommend Lost Cities, the card game. If you're looking for something more than Lost Cities, then go Trambahn. Yeah, if you're casual, I would recommend Lost Cities, the card game. It's another 2-player game. Power Grid, excellent price for how much it offers. I mean, there's just so much to it. Buying power plants and managing all these different resources, fueling your power plants via different things. It's just, I love Power Grid. Sunrise City, it's another great city builder. I don't see a lot of city builders on the market, which is a shame. It hits that SimCity need. For anytime I need to play SimCity, Sunrise City is usually there for me, and it offers more stuff than just residential, commercial, industrial, and all that jazz. Sushi Go, definitely a great family-friendly, casual drafting game, if you like drafting game. For those of you not familiar with drafting, take a card, pass it around. You get some cards from the other player, pick a card, pass it around, and then usually at the end of that, when everyone's out of cards, you take a look at the ones you did choose throughout that round, and you score based on what you've collected. So it's a set collecting drafting game. Sushi Go, very casual, a lot of fun. The Builders Middle Ages. I love this game because it's just, you're managing resources in the form of labor, and this labor has different, these people, your labor, have different skills, and you have to get so much of a skill in one particular area in order to build buildings. Like, to build this building, it might need 3 stone and 3 lumber, whereas this building might need 2 stone and 4 lumber. I don't remember the resources off the top of my head, but there's like 4 or 5 different resources, and your artisans and the other builders that you're hiring, they each have different skills, so you have to sort of hire the right labor to build the right buildings, and I really like that one. The Great Heartland Hauling Company, it's a very small game in terms of size, but I like just the idea of trucking goods around a small map and dropping them off and earning points. Like, that's pretty cool. Tokaido, great theme, very pleasing on the eyes, so many ways to score points in that game. It's very simple to play. I mean, there's a lot going on, like trying to keep track of all the different ways you can score points, that's the tough part, but once you get past that, it's a lot of fun. Tsuro, another great family game. It's just tile laying, and you're moving 1 token from the beginning of your tile to the end of the tile, and all these different tiles have different paths on them, and how you put your tiles down and the direction that you go in will ultimately determine whether or not you go off the board if you're the last one surviving. So Tsuro is a great one. It's Tsuro for those of you that want to search for it, and I'll have links in the below description too for you. And these links will go to my written review so that you can, read more about them, and I even have Amazon links at the end of those should you want to buy them. 8-Minute Empire, a very quick empire building game, and it's another one of those set collecting games, because the cards that you get in that game, depending on what icons they have and how much you have a particular type, you'll score points on that. You also score points for the land that you've acquired, and it's really cool. It plays very quickly, but it's still a fantastic. I want to say 4x, because 4x's are usually like hours and hours of playtime. This can be played in like 15 minutes. Even though it says 8-minute Empire, you'd have to be on speed or something to play this in 8 minutes. Machi, Koro, another great, I want to call it a city builder. It's more of a Dominion deck. It's sort of like a deck builder, but you're not actually building a deck. You're buying buildings that you're just going to put in front of you, and your ultimate goal is to build 4 landmarks before your opponent does. But it involves rolling dice, collecting resources, and using resources to buy buildings. And it's just and the resources is usually just money. So you're using the money that you're collecting to buy various buildings, and then when you roll the dice, more of your cards will activate. So the more cards you have, the more cards that may activate when it's your turn, or when it's not your turn. Some of those cards activate on other people's turns, so it's really cool. Machi, Koro, check that one out. Roll For It is a very, very light and casual game. I like it. There's dice management involved. There's like 3 cards or so on the table, and you roll your dice, and you have to assign dice to the card. And if you manage to, if one card has 2 3s on it, then you have to put 2 of your dice, you have to get 2 3s onto that card, and you get to take it, and that's victory points. But you may not roll exactly what you need for one card, so you may end up spreading your dice out across multiple cards. And the first person to get all of their dice to match what the card needs, will collect that card. So it's sort of like dice management. If you if you spread yourself too thin and got 2 dice over here, 2 dice over here, 2 dice over here, or maybe 1 die, then that 1 die that you're rolling, you only get 6, isn't going to be enough to get some of those other cards, because some cards require 6 dice, some require 4. So it's just it's a dice management, dice rolling, push your luck kind of thing. Airlines Europe, it reminds me a little Ticket to Ride, but it takes it to the next level. It has airplanes, obviously, and it's got like the stock market vibe about it. Instead of each player having a color, you're trying to figure out which color is going to pull ahead in the end and be the most successful, and that's where you're going to be trying to put your stock. Like, players will be able to put these stock cards down of a particular color, and you're trying to put stock cards down in the color that's successful, because every time there's a scoring round, each color is looked at. So how many cards do you have of red? And then whoever has the most stock cards of red, that'll score. But red may not be doing all that well, so you may not get a lot of points for red. Whereas orange might be doing really, really well, and that's when it pays to have the most stock of the orange color. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things going on with that game, but it's a lot of fun. Do recommend that one. Love Letter Batman. I played that with AJ and Vinny, and they loved it. It plays like regular Love Letter, only it's Batman. And I'm not going to bother explaining what Love Letter is, but it's an elimination game. There could be some hard feelings there if you have some sore losers in your group, but it's still a light. It plays in like 5 minutes. Each round is like 5 minutes. It does have Batman tokens though, and you can keep track of your score that way. And that's something that I think the original Love Letter has. Star Wars Armada. It's another miniatures game, very expensive because you're going to be buying various minis for it. But like I said earlier, how Star Wars X-Wing captured the feel of the Star Wars universe with the snub fighters, X-Wings, Y-Wings, A-Wings, all that jazz. This one captures the feel of the capital ships. That's one thing that the X-Wing game didn't do. Like, I bought the medium transport, the Corellian Corvette, for the Rebels, and I never play them because they're just so damn big. I mean, I can't play with them. They're just too big, and my mat is only 3x3. My table can only fit a 3x3 mat, and they're too big. Whereas I can, play Star Wars Armada when I feel like I want to play with capital ships. So I like that. Dungeon roll, great push your luck dungeon crawler kind of game where you have to try and figure out what dice you want to assign to what. Star Realms, it's a sci-fi themed deck builder. It's great because there are like, is it 4 or 5? I can't remember. 4 or 5 different factions in the game. And each of them have their own unique way of playing. Like the Blob, I love the Blob. They're green and they're really powerful, at least to me. And then another one, I think the yellow one lets you draw cards on a regular basis, and the red one, the Bots, lets you recycle cards. So there's different ways of playing the game. It's a great one. Okay, so my camera is yelling at me. It's been on for too long. City Tycoon. It scratches that SimCity itch. It's got residential, it's got commercial, it's got industrial, but you can also supply your tiles with power and water. It's a great SimCity-esque kind of game. I would have mentioned Suburbia. That's another good one, but sometimes it plays too long for my liking, especially toward the end. It can get very, very complicated. The more tiles you have out, the more things that chain together, so you're constantly trying to keep track of every single thing that's on your board, on your opponent's board. It can be a mess toward the end. Suburbia is still a lot of fun to play, don't get me wrong, but toward the end it gets brutal and gives me a headache. But Letter Tycoon is my last honorable mention. I've got a lot of educational games in my collection. Like I've got Word on the Street, Wayward, and the reason I chose this one is because it does something unique that the other ones don't do. You can actually patent letters in this game, and then you'll earn money whenever anyone uses those letters. And some of these letters even have special abilities, like the Z and the X, for example. So, I mean, out of all the educational games I have, I think Letter Tycoon is one of the more fun ones that I have, and I think it deserves an honorable mention. So yeah, there you have it, the DGA Awards for 2015. Again, I have this in written form on my official website, so go check it out. Before you leave nasty comments about, well, why didn't you mention this game, you hack, or learn to play noob, whatever you guys say now, there's a few reasons why a game may not be mentioned. If you take a look on my official website under the Board Games button, I have a list of all of the games I own. If you don't see that board game that you want mentioned listed, that means I don't own it. And like I said in the very beginning, I'm not going to mention a game that I haven't played. So that's why this is not a best of list. This is a top 10, my top 10 favorite games that I want to list for this year. So if it's not on this list, then maybe I don't own it. Go check the Board Games button on my official website to see if I own it. And on top of that, this is my opinion, not yours. If we all had the same opinion, this would be a very boring video, and we'd live in a very boring world. So yeah, 2015 DGA Awards. I appreciate your time. Stay tuned because I plan to publish another one for my top 10 video games for 2015. So stay tuned. If you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and check out my official website, www.dadsgamingaddiction.com. This is Vince. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.